Welcome back, my pattern convergence architect. Something absolutely extraordinary just occurred that has everyone experiencing profound attribution paralysis when observers discovered a hidden pattern that traces unmistakably back to you. This collective recognition created unprecedented situation where everyone simultaneously understands the connection, yet nobody wants to be first to acknowledge it publicly, creating strategic silence where universal private knowledge exists alongside public denial, making pattern discovery. Trigger coordinated non-acknowledgement, proving that some truths face collective admission resistance despite universal recognition. This wasn't you gradually revealing connections or slowly demonstrating influence over extended periods. This was instantaneous pattern revelation, where hidden connections suddenly became obvious to everyone simultaneously. Yet strategic considerations prevent public acknowledgement, making collective knowledge coexist with coordinated silence, proving that deepest recognitions sometimes remain publicly unacknowledged despite universal private awareness. The architects have been monitoring pattern recognition and strategic silence phenomena across civilizations for eons, and they've identified what you created as pattern convergence attribution paralysis, when hidden connections suddenly reveal themselves, pointing unmistakably to specific source. Observers experience simultaneous recognition, yet strategic considerations prevent public acknowledgement, creating coordinated silence where everyone knows privately but nobody admits publicly, proving that some knowledge operates through strategic non-acknowledgement, where universal recognition coexists with collective denial. Most pattern discoveries get acknowledged. People recognizing connections typically discuss findings openly, making pattern attribution seem like straightforward process. But your pattern apparently created admission resistance. Observers universally recognizing that connections trace to you, yet strategically avoiding public acknowledgement, proves some attributions face coordinated denial where private knowledge remains publicly unacknowledged, creating recognition that strategic silence can coexist with universal awareness, making pattern discovery trigger coordinated non-admission. Watch what's happening as observers process attribution paralysis. They experience recognition without acknowledgement. Everyone privately understanding that pattern traces to you, while strategically avoiding public admission creates coordinated silence despite universal awareness. Some observers are experiencing strategic calculation, recognizing that being first to acknowledge pattern creates disadvantages, makes everyone wait for others to speak first, creating coordinated silence. Others are experiencing collective denial, universal private recognition, coexisting with public non-acknowledgement, demonstrates that strategic considerations prevent admission despite knowledge. The truly remarkable element is the universality, everyone simultaneously recognizing pattern, proves connections unmistakably obvious, yet coordinated silence demonstrates strategic considerations override acknowledgement impulses, a hidden pattern led back to you. Now nobody wants to be first to admit it, through demonstrating that pattern convergence creates attribution paralysis, where strategic silence prevents acknowledgement. Now the architects are analyzing what creates pattern convergence, attribution paralysis, and they're identifying what they call first mover disadvantage, acknowledgement cost. When being first to publicly acknowledge pattern creates strategic disadvantages, rational observers wait for others to speak first, creating coordination problem where everyone possesses knowledge, yet nobody admits it, because initial acknowledgement carries costs, making strategic silence emerge from rational calculation, proving that some non-acknowledgement operates through game theoretic dynamics, where admission costs create coordination failures. Most acknowledgements prove costless. People admitting recognized patterns typically face no disadvantages, making admission seem like automatic following recognition. But your pattern apparently created acknowledgement costs. Being first to publicly admit connection carries strategic disadvantages, making rational observers wait for others. Proving admission costs create coordination problem where universal knowledge coexists with collective silence, creating recognition. That first mover disadvantage explains why nobody acknowledges pattern despite universal recognition. Making strategic calculation prevent admission. Consider what acknowledgement cost requires game theoretically. Admission must carry disadvantages. First, acknowledger facing costs that later acknowledgers avoid creates strategic incentive to wait, making coordination problem emerge from admission asymmetry. Watch what first mover disadvantage creates in acknowledgement dynamics. Strategic silence emerges. Observers calculating that initial admission carries costs, wait for others to speak first, creating coordinated non-acknowledgement. Despite universal knowledge, some studying game theory recognize that coordination problems create paralysis. Understanding that first mover disadvantages prevent optimal outcomes makes your pattern silence potentially demonstrate coordination failure. Others exploring prisoner's dilemma note that individual rationality creates collective suboptimality. Understanding that strategic weighting proves individually rational yet collectively problematic makes your attribution paralysis potentially demonstrate game theoretic trap. A few from collective action problems recognize that public goods suffer free riding. Understanding that acknowledgement benefits everyone, while costs fall on acknowledger creates incentive to wait, making your pattern silence potentially reflect free rider problem. Some experiencing strategic calculation appreciate rational waiting. Their recognition that initial acknowledgement carries costs validates that strategic silence proves individually rational. Others questioning whether true costs exist wonder about disadvantages. Understanding that perceived costs might exceed actual consequences makes assessing real versus imagined admission penalties important. A few recognizing that simultaneous acknowledgement would eliminate costs appreciate coordination solutions. Understanding that collective admission would protect individual acknowledgers makes coordinated revelation potentially solve paralysis. The architects observe that first mover disadvantage acknowledgement cost is what created attribution paralysis. Admission carrying strategic costs creates rational weighting. Most acknowledgements prove costless. Your pattern created admission disadvantages, and discovering that being first to acknowledge pattern creates strategic costs proves rational observers wait for others, creating coordination problem where universal knowledge coexists with collective silence making. Understanding that first mover disadvantage explains non-acknowledgement, validate strategic calculation, demonstrating that admission costs create game theoretic paralysis. Something powerful is spreading among observers. Now, what the architects call plausible deniability, ambiguity preservation. People recognizing pattern that traces to you are discovering that maintaining public ambiguity provides strategic advantages, creating understanding that preserving deniability about attribution enables flexibility, where explicit acknowledgement would create constraints, making pattern recognition coexist with strategic ambiguity maintenance, proving that some knowledge operates best when publicly unacknowledged. Most people assume clarity proves optimal. They believe making knowledge explicit benefits all parties, making acknowledgement seem like obviously superior strategy, but your pattern apparently benefits from ambiguity. Observers, maintaining plausible deniability about attribution despite private certainty, proves strategic ambiguity provides advantages where explicit acknowledgement would constrain options, creating recognition that preserving public uncertainty enables flexibility making, understanding that deniability, maintenance, serves strategic purposes. Explain why pattern remains publicly unacknowledged despite universal private recognition. Watch what ambiguity preservation creates in strategic dynamics. Deniability advantages emerge. Observers, maintaining public uncertainty about attribution despite private certainty demonstrates that strategic ambiguity provides flexibility benefits. Some studying strategic communication recognize that ambiguity enables flexibility. Understanding that preserving multiple interpretations maintains options makes your pattern ambiguity potentially demonstrates strategic uncertainty value. Others exploring diplomatic language note that deniability prevents commitment. Understanding that explicit statements constrain future positions makes your attribution ambiguity potentially reflect commitment avoidance. A few from legal strategy recognize that plausible deniability protects understanding, that maintaining uncertainty prevents accountability makes your pattern non-acknowledgement potentially serve protective function. Some experiencing deniability value appreciate ambiguity maintenance. Their recognition that preserving public uncertainty provides advantages validates that strategic ambiguity serves purposes. Others demanding clarity resist ambiguity justifications. Their belief that explicit acknowledgement proves superior makes them question whether deniability truly provides advantages. A few questioning whether true ambiguity exists wonder about universality, understanding that if everyone recognizes pattern, then ambiguity proves merely public fiction makes distinguishing genuine from strategic uncertainty important. Some celebrating strategic sophistication appreciate ambiguity preservation, recognizing that their deniability maintenance enables flexibility, validates understanding that public uncertainty serves strategic purposes. The architects observe that plausible deniability, ambiguity preservation reveals that strategic uncertainty provides advantages. Maintaining public ambiguity enables flexibility. Most assume clarity proves optimal. Your pattern benefits from ambiguity, and discovering that maintaining plausible deniability about attribution provides strategic advantages proves preserving public uncertainty enables flexibility, creating recognition that explicit acknowledgement would constrain options, where ambiguity preserves freedom making, understanding that deniability, maintenance, serves strategic purposes, validate why pattern remains publicly unacknowledged, demonstrating that strategic ambiguity provides benefits despite universal private recognition. Now the architects are revealing what coordinated silence actually demonstrates. Observers are experiencing what they call mutual knowledge paradox, common secret, discovering that everyone knows pattern traces to you, and everyone knows everyone else knows, yet knowledge remains publicly unacknowledged, creates recognition that mutual knowledge can exist as common secret where universal awareness coexists with collective denial, proving that some information operates in paradoxical state between known and unknown. Most assume mutual knowledge becomes public. People believing that when everyone knows something, it becomes openly discussed, makes public acknowledgement seem like inevitable consequence of universal awareness. But your pattern revealed common secret, everyone, knowing attribution and knowing others know. Yet maintaining public silence proves mutual knowledge can remain unacknowledged, creating recognition that information can exist. Paradoxically, where universal awareness coexists with collective denial-making, understanding that common secrets represent stable states, validate mutual knowledge paradox. Consider what common secret reveals about knowledge states. Mutual awareness can remain unacknowledged. Everyone, knowing pattern and knowing others know yet maintaining silence, demonstrates that universal knowledge can coexist with public denial, making common secrets stable. Watch what mutual knowledge paradox creates in information dynamics. Stable common secret emerges, your pattern being universally recognized, yet publicly unacknowledged. It proves mutual knowledge can exist indefinitely as collective secret. Some studying common knowledge theory recognize that acknowledgement levels differ. Understanding that knowing versus knowing others know creates hierarchy, makes your pattern potentially demonstrate mutual knowledge without common acknowledgement. Others exploring emperor's new clothes note that collective denial can persist. Understanding that universal private knowledge coexists with public silence makes your attribution secrecy potentially validate common secret stability. A few from conspiracy silence recognize that unspoken agreements maintain secrets. Understanding that coordinated non-acknowledgement preserves deniability makes your pattern silence potentially demonstrate collective agreement to not speak. Some experiencing common secret appreciate paradoxical state, their awareness that everyone knows yet nobody acknowledges validates that mutual knowledge can remain public sacred. Others questioning stability wonder about duration, understanding that common secrets might eventually collapse makes assessing whether your pattern silence proves permanently stable important. A few recognizing that single acknowledgement could cascade, appreciate fragility, understanding that one person speaking publicly might trigger universal admission makes your common secret potentially prove unstable despite current persistence. Some celebrating sophisticated silence appreciate common secret maintenance, recognizing that coordinated non-acknowledgement preserves strategic advantages, validates, understanding that mutual knowledge paradox serves purposes. The architects observe that mutual knowledge paradox common secret reveals that universal awareness can coexist with public denial. Mutual knowledge remains unacknowledged. Most assume mutual knowledge becomes public. Your pattern exists as common secret, and discovering that everyone knows attribution, and everyone knows, yet knowledge remains publicly unacknowledged proves mutual knowledge can exist as collective secret, creating recognition that information operates paradoxically where universal awareness coexists with coordinated silence making. Understanding that common secrets represent stable states validate mutual knowledge paradox, demonstrating that your pattern exists as universally known yet publicly denied truth. The architects are now analyzing power dimension of pattern attribution. You apparently created what they call attribution power source control, where being traceable source of widespread pattern establishes fundamental power because pattern origination demonstrates influence capacity making. Your position as pattern source constitute power demonstration that observers recognize yet strategically avoid acknowledging, proving that some power operates through being unacknowledged origin, where pattern source position establishes influence without requiring public attribution. Most power requires public acknowledgement. People exercising influence typically need recognized authority making. Power seem dependent on public attribution. but your power apparently operates through unacknowledged attribution, being recognized pattern source without public acknowledgement. Demonstrates influence capacity, proving some power functions optimally when source remains publicly unacknowledged, where pattern origination establishes authority without requiring explicit attribution, creating recognition that unacknowledged source position constitutes powerful state-making, understanding that influence can operate through denied attribution, validate power through pattern origination. Watch what source control creates in power dynamics. Unacknowledged influence emerges. Your position as pattern source, establishing power without requiring public attribution, demonstrates that influence can operate through denied origination. Some studying soft power recognize that influence operates subtly, understanding that power functions without explicit attribution makes your pattern source position potentially demonstrate indirect influence capacity. Others exploring hidden hands note that unacknowledged sources possess advantages. Understanding that denied attribution enables deniability makes your pattern origination potentially provide strategic benefits. A few from invisible influence recognize that greatest power remains unseen. Understanding that acknowledged influence invites resistance while unacknowledged power operates freely makes your denied attribution potentially optimize influence capacity. Some experiencing sourced recognition appreciate pattern power. Their private awareness that you originated pattern validates that source position, establishes influence even without public acknowledgement. Others questioning whether unacknowledged power proves real wonder about influence, understanding that denied attribution might weaken rather than strengthen power, makes assessing whether public acknowledgement enhances or diminishes influence important. A few recognizing that acknowledged attribution enables accountability, appreciate transparency, understanding that public source recognition allows evaluation makes questioning whether denied attribution serves legitimate purposes important. Some celebrating subtle influence appreciate unacknowledged power, recognizing that their pattern origination establishes influence without requiring attribution, validates understanding that denied source position optimizes power. The architects observe that attribution power source control reveals that pattern origination establishes influence without requiring acknowledgement. Unacknowledged source position constitutes power. Most power requires public attribution. Your influence operates through denial, and discovering that being recognized pattern source without public acknowledgement establishes influence capacity, proves some power operates optimally when denied, creating recognition that pattern origination establishes authority without requiring explicit attribution, making understanding that unacknowledged source position constitutes powerful state, validates source control, demonstrating that your influence operates through privately recognized yet publicly denied pattern attribution. Now something's emerging that the architects call evidence accumulation. Pattern strengthening. Observers monitoring connections are discovering that additional evidence continuously emerges, making pattern increasingly undeniable, creating recognition that attribution certainty intensifies over time, where accumulated proof strengthens connection, obviousness yet strategic silence persists despite mounting evidence, proving that some non-acknowledgement remains stable even as certainty increases, making pattern strengthening coexist with continued denial. Most assume sufficient evidence triggers acknowledgement. People believing that proof accumulation eventually forces admission makes acknowledgement seem like inevitable consequence of evidence sufficiency. But your pattern apparently demonstrates acknowledgement, independence, evidence, continuously strengthening attribution, yet strategic silence persisting, proves. Admission doesn't automatically follow from proof. Sufficiency, creating recognition that non-acknowledgement can remain stable regardless of evidence. Quantity, making understanding that strategic considerations override proof. Sufficiency, explain why silence persists despite pattern strengthening. Watch what pattern strengthening creates in acknowledgement dynamics. Evidence-independent silence emerges, your pattern becoming increasingly undeniable. Yet strategic non-acknowledgement persisting demonstrates that admission doesn't automatically follow from proof accumulation. Some studying belief persistence recognize that evidence doesn't change positions, understanding that proof accumulation often fails to shift stances makes your pattern strengthening potentially demonstrate belief resistance to evidence. Others exploring motivated reasoning note that strategic considerations override proof, understanding that incentives determine positions more than evidence makes your continued silence potentially reflect motivation dominance over proof. A few from conspiracy maintenance recognize that denial persists despite evidence, understanding that coordinated non-acknowledgement remains stable regardless of proof makes your pattern silence potentially demonstrate denial resilience. Some experiencing evidence awareness appreciate pattern clarity. Their recognition that proof continuously accumulates validates that attribution certainty intensifies even while silence persists. Others questioning evidence sufficiency wonder about proof standards, understanding that what constitutes adequate evidence varies makes assessing whether pattern truly proves attribution important. A few recognizing that evidence thresholds differ personally appreciate subjective standards, understanding that individuals require different proof levels makes your pattern potentially satisfy some while leaving others uncertain. Some celebrating evidence independence appreciate strategic consistency, recognizing that their silence persists despite mounting proof validates, understanding that acknowledgement follows strategic rather than evidential logic. The architects observe that evidence accumulation, pattern strengthening reveals that proof sufficiency doesn't trigger admission. Strategic silence persists regardless of evidence. Most assume proof forces acknowledgement. Your pattern demonstrates independence, and discovering that attribution evidence continuously accumulates yet strategic silence persists proves admission doesn't automatically follow from proof sufficiency, creating recognition that non-acknowledgement remains stable despite certainty increases where strategic considerations override evidence quantity making, understanding that acknowledgement follows strategic rather than evidential logic, validate evidence independence, demonstrating that pattern strengthening coexists with continued denial. Something profound is crystallizing now that the architects call recognition of cascade potential, acknowledgement trigger, observers maintaining strategic silence are discovering that single public acknowledgement could trigger universal admission cascade, creating recognition that coordinated silence proves fragile to individual defection, where one person speaking publicly might cause everyone to acknowledge simultaneously, making common secret stability depend on continued coordination, proving that attribution silence exists in unstable equilibrium where cascade potential creates simultaneous incentives to speak first and remain silent. Most assume silence proves stable. People maintaining coordinated non-acknowledgement expect continuation, making silence seem like robust equilibrium. But your pattern revealed cascade fragility, single acknowledgement, potentially triggering universal admission, proves coordinated silence exists in unstable state where individual defection could collapse collective denial, creating recognition that common secrets prove fragile to acknowledgement, cascades making, understanding that silence depends on continued coordination, validate equilibrium instability, proving attribution non-acknowledgement exists precariously. Consider what cascade potential reveals about silence stability. Single acknowledgement could trigger universal admission, coordinated silence, proving fragile to individual defection, demonstrates that common secrets exist in unstable equilibrium, requiring continued coordination. Watch what acknowledgement trigger creates in cascade dynamics. Unstable equilibrium emerges, your pattern silence, proving vulnerable to single defection, demonstrates that coordinated non-acknowledgement exists precariously, where individual acknowledgement could cascade universally. Some studying information cascades recognize that the individual actions trigger collective shifts, understanding that single public statements create following behavior makes your pattern silence potentially prove vulnerable to cascade initiation. Others exploring tipping points note that critical mass shifts equilibria, understanding that systems transition suddenly when thresholds cross makes your acknowledgement silence potentially exist near tipping point. A few from collective action cascades recognize that coordinated behavior proves fragile, understanding that individual defection triggers mass shifts makes your pattern silence potentially demonstrate cascade vulnerability. Some experiencing cascade awareness appreciate fragility recognition there, understanding that single acknowledgement could trigger universal admission, validates that silence exists unstably. Others defending silence stability resist cascade claims, their belief that coordinated non-acknowledgement proves robust makes them question whether single defection would truly trigger universal acknowledgement. A few recognizing that first mover advantages could motivate defection, appreciate cascade incentives, understanding that triggering cascade provides benefits makes individual acknowledgement potentially attractive despite current silence. Some celebrating coordination maintenance appreciate equilibrium preservation, recognizing that their continued silence prevents cascade, validates understanding that maintaining non-acknowledgement requires ongoing coordination. The architects observe that recognition of cascade potential acknowledgement trigger reveals that coordinated silence exists unstably. Single defection could trigger universal admission. Most assume silence proves stable. Your pattern reveals fragility, and discovering that single public acknowledgement could trigger universal admission cascade proves coordinated silence exists in unstable equilibrium, creating recognition that common secrets prove fragile to individual defection, where one acknowledgement might cause universal admission making, understanding that silence depends on continued coordination, validate equilibrium instability, demonstrating that attribution non-acknowledgement exists precariously, requiring ongoing collective commitment.